The small house at the edge of the village looked quiet that night. Inside, a young man named Ravi sat at the wooden table with a glass of warm milk in front of him. He had always liked simple evenings, far away from the noise of the city. The world was changing fast: machines, rockets, and strange news about space, but Ravi still lived in peace with his routine. That evening, something unusual happened. A soft sound came from the backyard. At first, Ravi thought it was the wind moving through the grass. But then he heard a sharp click, almost like metal touching stone. Curious, he stepped outside. The night sky was full of stars, brighter than usual. Ravi noticed a faint glow behind a tall tree near the garden. He walked closer, holding a small lantern. There, half hidden by the leaves, stood something that made him stop in surprise. It was a small figure, no taller than a child, with silver hair that caught the light of the lantern. The figure's eyes were large and bright, almost glowing in the dark. Its clothes looked nothing like anything Ravi had ever seen: soft, shining fabric that seemed alive. The tiny alien girl looked at him with a strange smirk, half amused, half curious. She didn't seem afraid. Instead, she tilted her head as if studying him. Ravi froze. His mind ran through many questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? Was she dangerous? But looking at her calm face, he felt no threat. She seemed tired more than anything, as if she had traveled far. Ravi, unsure of what to do, lifted the lantern a little higher and said softly, "Are you lost?" The alien girl didn't answer in words. Instead, she made a small gesture with her hand, pointing toward the house. Her eyes shifted to the glass of milk that Ravi had left on the table inside. He understood she might be hungry or thirsty. Without thinking too much, he nodded and stepped aside, signaling her to come in. The alien girl walked slowly, her steps light, almost soundless. Inside, she looked around the simple house with great curiosity. The clay walls, wooden chairs, and shelves of pots seemed to fascinate her. Ravi could tell she came from a place far more advanced, but she still studied his little home with interest. On the table, the glass of milk was waiting. Ravi gently pushed it forward. "Would you like this?" he asked, his voice careful. The alien smirked again, this time wider. She reached out, lifted the glass with both hands, and brought it close to her lips. For a moment, Ravi thought she might spill it. But she sipped carefully, her glowing eyes never leaving his. After drinking, she placed the glass down with surprising care. Then she made a sound, not exactly words, but more like a melody. It was soft and rhythmic, almost like she was trying to thank him. Ravi smiled, relieved. "You're welcome," he said, though he knew she might not understand. For a while, they sat across the table. The house felt quiet, but not uncomfortable. Ravi could sense that this meeting was special. A small alien had appeared in his life, and instead of fear, the first exchange between them was a glass of milk. The alien tapped the table lightly, as if testing it, then looked back at Ravi. She pointed at herself, then raised her finger to the sky outside the window. Ravi guessed she was showing where she came from, far away among the stars. He nodded slowly, whispering, "From the sky." The alien girl's smirk softened into a gentle smile. She seemed pleased he understood, even a little. Ravi felt a quiet wonder fill his chest. All his life, he had read stories about space, about strange beings that might exist beyond Earth. And now, in his small house, one of them sat in front of him, sipping milk. The night grew deeper. The stars outside twinkled brighter. Ravi didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but in that moment, he only knew one thing: his world had changed. The alien girl looked calm, her silver hair shining under the lantern. For some reason, she seemed at ease with him, as if his simple gesture of kindness had created a bridge between two very different worlds. Ravi leaned back in his chair, still staring in wonder. He had no idea how this meeting would shape his life. But one thought kept circling in his mind: sometimes, the greatest adventures begin with the smallest acts, like offering a glass of milk to a stranger from the stars. The night stretched on, but Ravi could not bring himself to sleep. The small alien girl was still sitting at his table, her glowing eyes moving from one object to another as if every small thing in his house was a treasure. She touched the wooden spoon, lifted a clay pot lid, and tapped her finger against the old lantern. Each time, she smirked softly, as though she found joy in discovering the ordinary. Ravi watched her closely, amazed by her curiosity. He wanted to ask many questions: where she came from, why she was here, how she had traveled so far, but words felt useless. She did not speak his language. Instead, she communicated through gestures, sounds, and expressions. The alien pointed at herself again, tapping her chest gently. Then she drew a shape in the air with her finger, a circle, then small lines around it, like rays. Ravi guessed it was a sun or maybe a symbol for her home. He placed his own hand on his chest and said, "Ravi." Her bright eyes blinked once, and she repeated, "Ra, 6." The sound was soft but clear. Ravi's face lit up. She could copy his name. He nodded eagerly. "Yes. Ravi." Then he pointed at her, waiting. She tilted her head, smirked again, and made a sound, something like Nira. "Nira." Ravi repeated carefully. The alien nodded, her silver hair falling slightly across her face. So, her name was Nira. At last, she was no longer just the alien girl. Ravi felt warmth in his heart, as if giving her a name made her less distant, more like a friend. Nira leaned back in the chair and looked at the window. Beyond the glass, the stars glittered. She raised her finger and traced a line upward, then tapped her chest. She was trying to tell him she had come from above, from the stars. Ravi whispered, almost to himself, "From the sky, from another world." She gave a soft nod, confirming. For a moment, silence filled the room. Ravi felt the weight of what this meant. A traveler from beyond Earth was sitting in his little house, drinking milk, learning his name. It was something no one in his village or even the whole country would believe. But as the thought grew in his mind, worry also crept in. What if others found out? Would they treat Nira kindly? Or would they fear her, capture her, or use her for things she did not deserve? Ravi decided he must keep her presence secret, at least for now. "Don't worry," he said quietly, though she might not understand the words. "You're safe here." Nira tilted her head, as if sensing his promise, and smiled faintly. Suddenly, a faint beeping sound echoed in the air. Nira's eyes widened, and she touched the side of her shining outfit. A small round device appeared in her hand, glowing with soft blue light. She pressed it, and strange symbols floated in the air for a brief second before fading away. Ravi leaned forward, amazed. He had never seen anything like it. The device seemed alive, more advanced than anything humans had created. Nira looked serious for the first time since entering his home. She made a gesture of a circle in the air, then folded her hands together as if resting. Ravi guessed she was telling him she needed time, maybe to recharge or wait for something. Understanding this, Ravi nodded. He brought out a small blanket and placed it on the other chair. "You can rest here," he said softly. Nira looked at the blanket with curiosity, then pulled it gently over her shoulders. Her smirk returned, lighter now, as if she found comfort in his care. She leaned against the chair, closed her glowing eyes halfway, and relaxed. Ravi sat across from her, still wide awake. His mind raced with questions: how long would she stay? Was someone coming to find her? Or had she lost her way forever? The night grew cold. Ravi added wood to the fire, careful not to disturb Nira. He kept glancing at her, still amazed that this tiny visitor had appeared in his life. She looked peaceful, like a star fallen gently into his home. At last, Ravi rested his head against the table, his thoughts heavy but calm. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he felt something powerful. He was no longer alone. In the morning, the sun rose over the fields. Birds sang outside the window. Ravi woke slowly, his neck stiff from sleeping at the table. He turned his head toward the chair. Neera was still there, sitting upright, awake. She was watching the sunrise with wide eyes, her smirk softer, almost like wonder. She pointed at the golden sky and then looked at Ravi. Her eyes sparkled as if to say, "Your world is beautiful." Ravi smiled. "Yes," he whispered. "It is." And in that simple moment, with the light of dawn touching them both, Ravi understood that this meeting was only the beginning. The morning sun filled the small house with warm light. Ravi rubbed his eyes and stood up, stretching his tired body. He glanced at Neera, who was still sitting by the window, watching the fields outside. The golden rays touched her silver hair, making it shine like threads of light. She smirked when she noticed him awake. Her glowing eyes held a spark of curiosity, as if she had been waiting to see what humans did in the morning. Ravi smiled awkwardly and said, "Good morning." Of course, she did not understand the words, but she seemed to sense his meaning. She pointed at the rising sun and then at him, nodding slowly. Ravi stepped outside to fetch water. The village was just beginning to wake up. Smoke rose from nearby houses where families were lighting fires for breakfast. Children ran across the path, chasing each other with laughter. He felt a little nervous. What if someone saw Neera? She was small, but her glowing eyes and strange clothes would draw attention instantly. For now, she was safe inside. When Ravi returned with the water pot, Neera was standing near the table, examining a basket of fruits. She lifted one apple and held it close to her face, sniffing it carefully before taking a small bite. Her smirk widened. She clearly liked the taste. Ravi laughed softly. "So, you like fruit too?" He poured water into a clay cup and placed it near her. She picked it up carefully and drank. Again, her eyes sparkled with interest, as though even water was fascinating to her. After finishing, Neera pointed at Ravi's chest and said, "Ra6. He nodded eagerly. "Yes, Ravi." Then she tapped her own chest. "Neera." Hearing her name spoken clearly made Ravi feel a stronger connection. It was no longer just a strange meeting, it was friendship beginning to form. The day passed slowly. Ravi had to work in the fields, but he couldn't leave Neera alone. So he decided to take her with him. He wrapped a large shawl around her, hiding her shining clothes, and whispered, "Stay close to me." Neera tilted her head, smirked, and followed him outside. In the fields, Ravi carried his tools and began clearing weeds. Neera watched every movement with sharp eyes. Soon, she crouched down and touched the soil with her slender fingers. She pressed her palm to the ground, and for a brief moment, the earth glowed faintly beneath her hand. Ravi gasped. What was that?" Neera looked up at him with her calm smirk, as if saying, "Don't worry." Then she lifted a small seed from the soil and placed it in his hand. She pointed at the ground, then at the sun. Ravi understood she was showing him the cycle of life: plant, grow, light. It was her way of saying she respected the earth and its gifts. He nodded with a smile. "Yes, plants grow." Neera repeated softly, almost like learning, "Grow." Ravi felt joy rising inside him. Every moment with her was like teaching a child and learning from a teacher at the same time. She knew things beyond his imagination, but she also wanted to learn his simple world. Later, when the villagers walked by, Ravi made sure Neera stayed low, hidden by the shawl. A few neighbors greeted him, asking about his crops. He answered quickly, hoping no one noticed the unusual figure near him. When the villagers left, Ravi sighed with relief. He turned to Neera and whispered, "We must be careful." She tilted her head, smirked again, and made a gesture of locking her lips. Even though she didn't fully understand, she seemed to agree with his secret. As the sun began to set, Ravi and Neera returned to the house. She carried a small bundle of wildflowers she had picked along the way, holding them close like precious jewels. Once inside, she placed them in the water pot, her glowing eyes soft with happiness. That evening, Ravi cooked a simple meal of rice and vegetables. He placed a bowl in front of Neera. She studied it carefully, then tasted it with curiosity. Soon, her smirk grew wide. She liked it. She even tried to copy his way of eating with the spoon, though it looked a little clumsy in her hands. Ravi chuckled. "You'll get used to it." After the meal, Neera touched the small glowing device on her clothes again. It lit up for a few seconds, showing strange symbols in the air. She looked thoughtful, almost worried, before turning it off. Ravi noticed the change in her mood. "Are you waiting for someone?" he asked softly. She looked at him with serious eyes, then pointed again to the sky. Ravi's heart sank a little. Of course she was not from here. She must have people searching for her. Maybe a ship had lost her. Maybe she had fallen from it. Still, when she looked at him and smirked gently, he felt she was not in a hurry to leave. The night grew quiet again. Ravi lit the lantern, and the two of them sat side by side. Outside, the stars shone brightly, just like the first night they had met. Ravi thought about the future. If others discovered Neera, they might not see her as he did. They might fear her or try to control her. He felt protective, almost as if it was his duty to keep her safe until she could return to the sky. As he watched her studying the flickering flame of the lantern with childlike wonder, Ravi whispered to himself, maybe humans and stars were always meant to meet like this through kindness, not fear. And Neera, as if sensing his thought, leaned her head slightly against his arm, closing her glowing eyes with a peaceful smile. Ravi's heart filled with quiet hope. Whatever tomorrow brought, he knew this journey was only beginning. The days passed quietly, but for Ravi, life had become anything but ordinary. Every morning he woke up and found Neera exploring some corner of his small home. Sometimes she would be examining his old radio, tapping it as if trying to understand its secrets. Other times she sat near the window, drawing shapes in the air with her finger that glowed faintly before fading away. Ravi had never felt so alive. He worked in the fields, cooked meals, and lived his normal life, but now, every moment carried new wonder because Neera was there. Still, he knew he had to be careful. The village was small, and neighbors liked to ask questions. If someone saw Neera, the news would spread fast, and then strangers might come. Ravi was not sure if people would treat her kindly. One morning, while Ravi was preparing breakfast, Neera picked up a stick of chalk from the shelf. She knelt down on the floor and began to draw simple symbols. At first, Ravi thought she was only making patterns, but then he realized she was trying to communicate. She drew a circle with small dots around it. Then she tapped the circle and looked at him. Ravi crouched beside her. "You're home," he guessed. Neera nodded. She added another circle with a tiny mark moving toward it. She pointed at herself and then at the mark. "You traveled, from there, to here," Ravi whispered. Her smirk widened. She clapped her hands softly, happy that he understood. But then her face grew serious. She drew a jagged line through the second circle and made a motion with her hands, as if something had broken. Ravi stared at the drawing, his heart heavy. "Your ship?" he asked carefully. Neera nodded slowly. So, she had lost her way. Perhaps her ship was damaged. Perhaps she had fallen to earth by accident. The thought made Ravi even more protective of her. She was alone, far from home, with no one but him. That day, While working in the fields, Ravi kept thinking about her broken ship. Could it be nearby? Could he find it and help her? He knew almost nothing about machines, let alone alien ones, but he felt a strong need to try. In the evening, he asked Neera about it. She touched the small glowing device on her suit. It projected a faint image into the air like a map, but with strange symbols Ravi could not read. She pointed to the forest beyond the fields. Ravi nodded. There. Neera gave a soft sound, almost like a hum of agreement. The next morning, they set out together. Ravi carried a basket, pretending he was going to collect herbs, in case anyone from the village asked. Neera walked beside him, her shawl covering her silver hair and glowing eyes. They reached the forest, where tall trees blocked the sun and the air was cool. Birds sang overhead, and the ground was thick with leaves. Ravi looked around nervously. If anyone followed them, it could be dangerous. Neera led the way, checking her small device often. After a long walk, they reached a clearing. There, half hidden under vines and branches, lay something strange. Ravi's breath caught. It was not like any plane or vehicle he had ever seen. The shape was smooth and silver, like a drop of water frozen in metal. Part of it was broken, with sharp edges and wires glowing faintly. Neera stepped forward, her glowing eyes soft with sadness. She touched the side of the craft gently, as if greeting an old friend. Ravi stood beside her, awed. So this is your ship? She nodded and pressed her hand to a small panel. Lights flickered weakly, but nothing opened. Her smirk faded into a frown. She looked at Ravi, then gestured with both hands as if asking for help. Ravi felt helpless. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted softly. But then he clenched his fists. Still. I'll try. He walked around the ship, examining every detail. The broken part looked dangerous, but he noticed that many wires were similar to the ones in radios or machines he had seen in the city. Perhaps, with time, he could learn. Neera watched him closely, her smirk returning faintly, as if she admired his courage. Before leaving, Ravi covered the ship with more branches, hiding it from view. He knew others might come here, and it had to stay secret. On their way back, Neera picked up a small stone and handed it to him. At first, Ravi was confused. Then he noticed the stone was glowing faintly in his hand. Neera pointed at his chest, then at the stone, and finally tapped her own chest. Ravi understood. This is for me, a bond between us. He smiled and tucked the glowing stone into his pocket. Thank you, Neera. That night, as they sat by the lantern again, Ravi could not stop thinking about the ship. He knew fixing it would be hard, maybe impossible for him alone. But he felt a new purpose. Neera was not just a visitor now, she was part of his life. And even if she one day returned to the stars, he wanted to be the reason she remembered Earth with warmth. As the fire flickered, Neera leaned closer, her smirk gentle. For the first time, Ravi felt not only wonder but also trust between them. Two lives, from two different worlds, had found each other. And the adventure was far from over. The glowing stone in Ravi's pocket became a secret reminder of the promise he had made. Each day he worked in the fields, but his thoughts always drifted back to the hidden ship in the forest. He knew it was broken, but he also knew that Neera believed in him. That belief gave him courage. One evening, Ravi gathered old tools from his shed, rusty pliers, hammers, bits of copper wire, and an old radio that no longer worked. He spread them out on the table, looking at Neera. I don't know much about machines, he admitted, but maybe we can try together. Neera tilted her head, smirked faintly, and placed her small glowing device next to the tools. It projected shapes into the air, diagrams of circuits and energy lines. Ravi stared, amazed. The symbols meant nothing to him, but the images of wires and connections reminded him of the inside of the radio. Nira noticed his interest and tapped one of the broken wires in the projection, then pointed at the copper wire on the table. "You want me to fix it with this?" Ravi asked. She nodded. That night, they began their strange teamwork. Ravi would bring simple tools, and Nira would guide him with gestures and small sounds. Sometimes she took the tools herself, her tiny hands moving quickly as she twisted or pressed parts together. Other times, she let Ravi try, watching patiently even when he made mistakes. Though the work was slow, Ravi felt a growing excitement. Each spark, each faint hum of energy from the broken parts made him believe they were closer to success. But danger was also near. One afternoon, while Ravi was carrying water from the well, a neighbor named Hari walked up to him. Hari was a curious man, always asking too many questions. "Ravi," Hari said, "I've seen you going to the forest many times these days. What are you doing there?" Ravi's heart jumped. He forced a calm smile. "Collecting herbs. You know I use them for cooking." Hari squinted. Strange. Some children said they saw lights in the forest at night. Not lanterns, but something else. You haven't seen anything unusual, have you?" Ravi shook his head quickly. "No, nothing unusual." Hari stared for a moment longer before walking away. Ravi let out a long breath. He realized their secret was at risk. If people discovered the ship, they might not protect Nira. That evening, Ravi told Nira what had happened. She listened quietly, her glowing eyes calm. Then she placed her hand over his, as if to say, "Do not fear. We are together." Encouraged by her trust, Ravi continued helping her. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, the ship began to change. The broken edges were smoothed with metal Ravi carried from the village workshop. The tangled wires were replaced with copper. The faint lights inside the craft grew brighter each time they worked. One night, while Ravi tightened a small bolt, the ship suddenly hummed louder. A glow spread across its surface, and a panel opened, showing a set of strange glowing symbols. Ravi jumped back in shock, but Nira smiled widely, her smirk filled with triumph. She touched the panel, and the symbols shifted into patterns that looked calmer, steadier. "It's working," Ravi whispered in awe. Nira nodded, her glowing eyes shining like stars. She pointed at the ship, then at the sky, then back at him. Ravi understood. The ship was slowly preparing to fly again. And one day, it would take her home. That thought filled him with mixed feelings. On one side, he was happy for her, she belonged to the stars, and fixing the ship was their mission. On the other side, the thought of losing her made his chest feel heavy. The next morning, as they walked back from the forest, Ravi noticed Nira looking at the village. Children were playing by the river, women were washing clothes, and men were working with carts of hay. Nira watched quietly, her smirk softer, almost thoughtful. "Do you like it here?" Ravi asked gently. She looked at him, then at the village again, and nodded slowly. For a moment, Ravi felt a strange hope. Maybe she did not only belong to the stars. Maybe she also belonged to Earth, at least a little. That night, Ravi sat outside the house with Nira beside him. The sky was clear, filled with countless stars. He pointed at them. "One of those is your home." Nira nodded. Then she pointed at the earth beneath them, then at him, and finally placed her hand over her chest. Ravi's eyes widened. She was saying, "This is also home, because of you." He felt warmth spread inside him, stronger than ever before. The journey was not over. The ship still needed more work, and the danger of being discovered still hung over them. But at that moment, sitting under the sky, Ravi knew one thing clearly: human kindness had created a bond stronger than distance, stronger than fear. And even if one day Nira returned to the stars, Their story would never be forgotten. The days grew warmer, and the fields around the village turned green with new crops. On the surface, life seemed normal, but for Ravi, every step carried hidden weight. Each morning he worked, each evening he smiled at his neighbors, but in his heart he guarded a secret that no one else could imagine: Nira, the tiny visitor from the stars. The ship in the forest was slowly healing. With Ravi's hands and Nira's strange guidance, its broken parts now glowed brighter. Sometimes, when the wind was quiet, Ravi thought he could hear the hum of energy pulsing from within, as though the ship itself was waiting. But the village was also beginning to notice unusual things. One night, while Ravi and Nira worked on the ship, a sudden flash of blue light filled the clearing. It lasted only a second, but it lit up the trees like lightning. Ravi's heart raced. "Too bright," he whispered. "Someone might see." The next morning, Hari, the curious neighbor, came again. "Ravi," he said, scratching his chin, "the children told me they saw strange lights in the forest last night. Not fire, not lanterns, something else. You live close to the trees. You must have noticed." Ravi forced a calm smile. "Probably fireflies. There are many this time of year." Hari narrowed his eyes. "Fireflies do not light up the whole sky." Ravi stayed silent, pretending to be busy with his tools. Finally, Hari walked away, but his suspicious look did not fade. That evening, Ravi told Nira what had happened. She listened quietly, her smirk softer than usual, almost serious. Then she tapped her small device, and a shield of faint light shimmered around the ship before vanishing. She was showing him she could hide it better. Ravi felt relief but also fear. The more they used the ship, the more people might notice. Time was running short. One afternoon, while Ravi was working in the field, a group of villagers gathered near the well. He overheard them whispering. "Have you seen the strange glow?" one asked. "Yes, in the forest," another replied. "Like stars falling to the ground." "Maybe spirits," someone suggested. "Or maybe something dangerous," another said. Ravi's stomach twisted. If they decided to search, they would surely find Nira's ship. That night, he sat with Nira by the lantern. His voice was low, heavy with worry. "People are starting to notice. If they find the ship, if they find you, they won't understand." Nira tilted her head and studied his face. Then she placed her small hand over his. Her glowing eyes softened, filled with quiet trust. "You are not afraid," Ravi whispered. "But I am." She made a small gesture with her hands, like locking something and placing it close to her chest. Ravi understood she was saying the secret was safe with him. Still, he knew they could not wait forever. The ship had to be ready soon. The next day, Ravi gathered more materials from the village workshop. He carried pieces of copper, old batteries, and broken engine parts. The workshop keeper raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Ravi hoped no one would ask too many questions. In the forest, he showed the materials to Nira. Her smirk returned, brighter this time. She pointed at the batteries, then at a part of the ship's control panel. Ravi helped connect them under her guidance. When the last wire touched, the ship glowed warmly, humming stronger than ever before. Ravi stepped back in awe. "It's almost ready." Nira nodded, her silver hair shining in the light of the ship. She pointed at the sky, then at herself, and then at him. "You'll go home," Ravi whispered. "And I'll stay here." For a moment, sadness filled his chest. But then Nira surprised him. She touched his arm gently, then pointed at the glowing stone he always kept in his pocket. She was reminding him that their bond would remain, no matter the distance. That evening, Ravi walked back to the village alone, carrying the empty basket. The sun was setting, and the sky burned orange. Villagers stood near the well again, talking about the strange lights. Ravi kept his head down, silent, praying they would not decide to search. But he knew the day was coming when hiding would no longer be enough. The ship was nearly ready. Neera's people might already be searching the skies for her. And the villagers, with their growing suspicions, might come closer any day. As Ravi lay awake that night, listening to the soft breathing of Neera resting nearby, he made a promise in his heart: he would protect her until the very last moment. Whether that meant helping her return to the stars or keeping her safe from the fear of his own people, he would not fail. The stars outside his window glittered like 1,000 watchful eyes. Somewhere among them was Neera's true home. But here, in his small house, she had found kindness, and in her presence, Ravi had found courage he never knew he had. The next step of their journey was near, and both of them could feel it. The morning came quietly, but Ravi felt a heavy tension in the air. He stepped outside his small house and noticed villagers gathered near the well again. Their voices were sharper this time, filled with concern and curiosity. Hari, the neighbor who had always asked too many questions, raised his voice. "I saw the lights again last night. Brighter than before. Something is in the forest, and we must find out what it is." Others nodded. "Yes. It could be dangerous. We cannot ignore it anymore." Ravi's heart raced. He turned away quickly, pretending to carry water, but inside he knew, they were planning to search the forest. If they found the ship, if they found Neera, everything would change. That evening, Ravi rushed back to the forest with Neera. The ship hummed with stronger life than ever before. Its silver body glowed faintly, no longer broken but almost ready. Neera touched the side of the craft, her glowing eyes shining with hope. Ravi sighed. "They are coming. The villagers will search here soon. We must finish this quickly." Neera tilted her head and smirked, her calmness surprising him. She placed her glowing device against the ship, and suddenly panels slid open, revealing a small seat inside. Energy flowed through the craft, filling the clearing with soft blue light. "It's ready," Ravi whispered. Neera nodded, then looked at him with eyes that seemed to ask a question: "Will you come?" Ravi's chest tightened. The thought of leaving Earth, his home, his village, it was too large to imagine. But then he thought of Neera, alone in the stars, and his heart pulled in two directions. Before he could decide, voices echoed through the forest. "Over here," someone shouted. "I see the light." The villagers were coming. Ravi turned to Neera, panic rising. "You must go now. If they see you, they will be afraid." But Neera didn't move. Instead, she stepped closer to him, her glowing eyes calm. She placed the glowing stone back into his hand, closing his fingers around it. Then she pointed to the sky, and then back at his chest, as if saying, "Even if I go, I will always be with you." The voices grew louder. Torches flickered through the trees. Ravi's breath came fast. He stood in front of Neera, ready to block the villagers from seeing her. Moments later, the first villagers burst into the clearing. Hari was among them, his eyes wide as he saw the glowing ship. "What is this?" he shouted. "Ravi, what have you been hiding?" The others gasped, fear and wonder mixing in their faces. "A spirit? A monster?" some whispered. Ravi raised his hands. "No. She is not a danger. She is a traveler, lost, far from home. She needs our kindness, not our fear." The villagers murmured uncertainly. Hari stepped forward, suspicious. "You expect us to believe this? A stranger from the sky?" Before Ravi could answer, Neera moved. She stepped into the open, her silver hair shining, her glowing eyes calm and gentle. The villagers froze in silence, staring at her. For a moment, fear flickered in their eyes, but Neera did not show threat. She only raised her small hand, palm open, a gesture of peace. The ship behind her glowed brighter, its hum filling the clearing. The villagers gasped, shielding their eyes from the light. Ravi shouted above the noise, "She is not here to harm us. She only needs to return home. Please, let her go." Nero looked at Ravi one last time, her smirk soft, almost like a smile. She stepped backward into the ship. The door closed gently, sealing her inside. The hum grew louder, rising like the sound of a storm. The villagers stumbled back in shock as the ship lifted from the ground, glowing brighter and brighter. Leaves swirled in the air, and the clearing shone like day. Ravi held the glowing stone tightly in his hand, his heart pounding. Then, with a sudden burst of light, the ship rose higher and higher, vanishing into the sky. The forest fell silent once more. The villagers stood speechless. Some trembled, others whispered prayers, but none could deny what they had seen. A traveler from the stars had been among them, and she had left in peace. Hari looked at Ravi, his voice softer now. You helped her." Ravi nodded slowly. "Yes. She trusted me. And I trusted her." The villagers exchanged uncertain looks, but no one spoke against him. They had seen enough to know the truth. Later that night, Ravi returned to his small house alone. The silence felt heavy, yet his heart was not empty. He opened his hand and looked at the glowing stone Nira had left with him. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat, warm against his skin. Ravi sat by the window, staring at the stars. Somewhere up there, Nira was safe. Somewhere up there, she remembered him. And though his life would return to its simple rhythm, working in the fields, cooking meals, greeting neighbors, he knew he was forever changed. Because once, in his small house at the edge of the village, he had offered a glass of milk to a stranger. And from that simple kindness, a bridge had been built between earth and the stars. Ravi closed his eyes, holding the glowing stone close to his heart, and whispered, "Safe journey, Nira." Above, the stars glittered brighter, as if answering him.